If we have any hope of reducing the damages from climate change over the next couple of decades, methane is a key to doing that.
Welcome to The Switch. I'm Elena Casas. Emissions from the oil and gas sector put 120 million metric tonnes of methane into the atmosphere last year, according to a recent IEA report. That's a rise on 2022 and close to a record high. A key part of the challenge here is figuring out just where those emissions are coming from. And to do that, a new methane-detecting satellite went into orbit in March. Well, Stephen Hamburg is the project leader of Methane SAT and chief scientist at the Environmental Defence Fund, and he joins me now. Stephen, hi. What makes this satellite necessary then? What are the gaps in the data that we do have?
Well, really, we can't measure emissions across the globe in all the different places where the oil and gas industry is producing. And so it's really about producing high quality data in near real time from across the industry. In fact, we don't have a single sector of the economy where we have directly measured emissions data about greenhouse gases.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition.
MethaneSat launched via a SpaceX rocket in March. It was developed by US NGO, the Environmental Defence Fund, in partnership with the New Zealand Space Agency, and cost $88 million to build and launch. It is circling the Earth 15 times a day at an altitude of 590 kilometres, and it has already started to send data back.
So we'll be able to comprehensively report on the methane emissions from the production of oil and gas around the globe, from all the major basins of the globe and almost every area producing oil and gas, which will really give us radical transparency. It'll allow us to, for the first time, really understand what's happening.
What concretely do the oil and gas companies need to do?
Well, they just need to bring their best practices to bear. We know from lots of data now that the technology to minimize methane emissions from the production of oil and gas exists and is cost effective, and it simply needs to be uniformly deployed. And we need better understanding of the pattern of emissions so that the companies can deliver the technology at its best.
If this is such low-hanging fruit for oil companies, though, why isn't it happening already?
Well, it's just never been the focus. Gas is in most cases a side product. It's not the primary product. Most of these wells are producing oil, and they get gas along with the oil. They have just simply not put the focus on reducing emissions. In the US, where we've looked at methane emissions across the oil and gas supply chain, those methane emissions associated with natural gas are high enough that they roughly double the climate impact of using natural gas, as I do in my house to heat it.
That is now supposed to change. At COP28 last year, 52 oil and gas producers signed a charter aiming to end routine flaring and achieve near zero upstream methane emissions by 2030. MethaneSat aims to hold companies to that promise.
If we have any hope of reducing the damages from climate change over the next couple of decades, methane is a key to doing that. The advantage we have with methane is that our actions now bear direct impact on the climate change we experience 10 or 20 years from now. CO2 has a similar effect, but unfortunately it builds up in the atmosphere, where methane concentrations with aggressive action will actually decline in the atmosphere, which will be enormously beneficial to reducing the damages we're experiencing from climate change going forward.